Hello and welcome to Talk Art. I'm Rayn and I'll be your host as we delve into the world of the artist and the art that's all around us. Talk Art is sponsored by the Silicon Valley Open Studios. During the first 3 weekends in May, hundreds of local artists open their studios to the public. For more information, you can go to the website svos.org. Our guest, Heleh Mahbod, is a painter who creates uplifting and very colorful acrylic and mixed media paintings that focus on living in the moment. And she also teaches her students to break through boundaries to find self-expression. And she's here to talk about her paintings. So welcome, Heleh.
Hi, Sally. Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So your paintings are beautiful, very colorful. Tell us a little bit about how you became interested in art.
Well, it's an interesting story. I was 12 and was making a lot of noise around the house and not letting anybody rest. My mom sat me down to do a painting, and I did my first oil painting at that age. And I never stopped after that. And it just became a part of me. It's a means for self-expression. And even when I was working, I would find time to paint late nights and on weekends. And finally, I retired in 2014, became a full-time artist.
So you're a self-taught artist, and now you're full-time.
Yes.
Beautiful. Excellent.
Thank you.
So your paintings look very spontaneous. And tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say living in the moment.
Sure. I hope to promote optimism with my art and bring happiness to the houses or wherever they are hosted. What I mean by living in the moment is really being present, having all your senses fully aware of what's going around you and not thinking about future or the past. We oftentimes tend to be so focused about future that we forget to enjoy the moment. So my art is really emphasizing on small things in life that you don't want to let go of and notice them.
So the paintings themselves are like that, and then is your process also living in the moment?
Yes, it's actually takes a lot of practice to be like that, and I have to teach myself every day and remind myself of what I'm trying to do.
Excellent.
Yes.
So you have a video that you want to show us about the idea of living in the moment. Yes. And what that means to you. So let's take a look at that now.
Sure. So this one is about a rainy day. One can see a rainy day as a gloomy day, or they can see it as a very happy and relaxing day. And this is what it's trying to portray. It's a very relaxing day. You can hear the rain, you can feel the earth. The colors I use is really earth tones. So, and if you get close and take a look, you see the raindrops and the silence and the calmness of a rainy day and the light and happiness behind it. So it's a cheerful day, although it's a rainy day.
Yes, I really like the light and how it seems to be glowing through the clouds. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And so how did you see these people? How did they
No, actually, it was a rainy day. I was sitting in the kitchen and looking outside, and I saw one person walking up the hill, and it inspired, what people think of rain and how I want to portray it.
Well, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
So what inspires you to paint when you're sitting at your canvas?
Sure. I'm an expressive painter, and I've been painting all my life. And what really inspires me, I think, is nature and people interaction and kindness. Nature grounds me when I find myself in deadlock. I find that if I go outside and take a walk and be in the nature, it kind of resets my button, and I start thinking, and all the creativity comes in. And I try to do that almost every day, to go out, make a point of going out and being in the nature. And people interaction and kindness is another thing that really inspires me in a time and age that everything is kind of so focused on social media and
Right.
texting and not being in it with one another. What really fuels my soul is when I get to see my family and friends and make new friends. And I hope to inspire others to do the same through my art.
So you have some images. We're going to start out looking at the nature pictures that
Sure.
you brought. So let's see some of your nature paintings.
So this one is actually one of my first ones that I did after I stopped working. And what you see is a lot of energy and happiness in this nature painting. It's very colorful. And although you see a lot of red and oranges, you see calmness in the background and all the quiet houses. It's kind of being away from all the noise and hustle and bustle of a very busy life and being quiet with nature. And it was inspired by one of the walks that I took in the nature. Again, this is another one. I called it morning meditation. It's kind of those flowers that you see were little flowers that I saw kind of on the side of the road, so small that in my imagination they grew up to be that big. Mm-hmm. And I tend to just paint with, I choose colors that are kind of my mood. And I don't really focus on what colors I'm choosing as I'm painting. Just whatever I feel I pick and I use it in the painting. Here you see blues kind of create balance and in a well-balanced life. So just a well-balanced life. And the purples are wisdom and being strong. And that's the feeling that I took away from a morning walk that I did, and I just came back and
the morning light, where it fades sort of towards the edges, that really makes me think of the morning. That's beautiful.
It was inspired by a morning walk.
This is bright and beautiful.
Thank you. So I do a lot of flower paintings, and oftentimes flowers to me represent people and relationships. Here you see flowers, the morning lilies floating on water, but they're still grounded and very sturdy. And you don't see them alone. They're kind of in couples or a bunch of them together, which kind of represents to me family life and support and having supportive friends. All my paintings tend to have a story behind them, and this is one.
Wow, beautiful colors. Look at that bright color. That looks like sunlight on the hillside to me.
Yes, this is about nature again, and it's taking us off the road, normal life, and taking us to the path, unknown path of nature. Each of those colors kind of, after I finished the painting, I started looking at the colors, and I chose yellow and kind of for energy and joy, and the pinkish color is kind of romantic, being in the garden, a romantic garden, and the blues are kind of grounded. Again, it gives you a feeling of a grandeur of the nature and feeling lost in the beauty of this awesomeness.
Right, so this seems like a large view, whereas the morning meditation was the tiny little flowers. But this one goes off into the fog in the distance. Beautiful.
Yes. Thank you.
So your painting process, it looks, some of it's abstract, but you have some details in there that are specifically figurative. Tell us how you begin your process, how you begin a painting.
Sure.
And then we'll see some more.
So first of all, I don't really think when I paint what I'm going to be painting. I don't know what I'm going to be painting. Pretty much I'm driven by my mood and my subconscious feeling. So it's a discovery process for me. But I still have a process. And as part of my process, when I'm not painting, I actually prepare my canvases. I do a lot of texturing and set them aside. And when I want to paint, I just pick one of those canvases and start making marks. That kind of activates the canvas for me and my feeling.
Marks with what medium?
It can be pencils, pens. I use anything that is close to me.
Right. So, but it sort of outlines what you think.
No, I'm not outlining anything. I'm just scribbling on the canvas, and I just put everything on it. And then I start picking colors. And I sometimes mix the colors to get to a palette that I want, or I just choose what I have. And pretty much I can say my mood is my palette. Whatever I feel at that moment in time kind of drives what I'm going to be painting, and that becomes later on a story that I was in the back of my mind I wanted to tell myself.
Excellent. So you have a video that's sort of a sped up time lapse of your process.
Yes.
So let's take a look at that when you start the actual painting of it.
Sure.
In the background.
So here's where I am. I came back from yet another walk with a friend out in the nature. And it was a very high energy walk, and we had chatted a lot, and just came home and started putting all the stuff, all the marks and colors and paints on the paper.
It looks like it's sort of dripping, and you're using a hairdryer?
Yes, because I tend to paint wet on wet, because if I don't get my idea done, the canvas will sit around for a long time before I get to it again, to get into that mode again. And I try to get my thought process done, or whatever the feeling, and not the thought process, the feeling down. And this is, in between, I would use the hair dryer to make sure it gets to a stage that I can actually finish it.
And then this is the finished painting from that background.
Yes. I finished that first layer and then came back to it the next day, and it developed to that.
That was one day of painting on the background. That's beautiful. Excellent work. So in your process, the wet on wet is really important. And then after you're done with the wet on wet, how do you create the more sharp lines when you're, have you made the decision that you're going to paint that?
No, after that stage of putting the color down, I usually come back and take a look at it the next day, trying to find my story. And not all the time I'll find it, so sometimes it becomes something else, to be honest. But the mood is there, and I start seeing things in it, and that's where I start putting the lines and making it more definite of what it, it becomes usually an impressionistic kind of a painting.
And when does it become a story?
When I feel it. When I actually see it. I constantly question, what am I telling myself when I'm painting? It's as I said, it's a self-discovery process. It's like, what is in the back of my mind? What am I trying to tell myself?
Well, let's take a look at some more images that you brought, the more abstract ones.
Sure. Yeah. So this one is called Meditation again, and it really brings the feeling of relaxation to the viewer. How I do my abstracts is very different than the other one, and in this stage I'm pretty much in a state of relaxation. My mind doesn't work honestly at all, and I'm just putting down lines and colors and some shapes, and at some point it speaks to me and I know what it's trying to tell me. So this is one of those.
At some point it's done.
Yes. This is another one of those abstracts. Pretty much I put down the colors, and at some point I start seeing a story. Story here is kind of a fun one. I see a joyful afternoon and a path that leads to the corner of the upper corner of the painting, and it's like there's a secret story there. That's why I called it Afternoon Rendezvous after it was done, because I feel like there's a secret in there that it's trying to tell me, but I don't know what it is.
To me, all those circles look like a crowd of people. That's
It
what I
could-
see, like
yeah.
a big party, very
Right.
colorful.
Thank you.
Colors of nature.
So this is this one is really a good representation of what I feel about nature. You see many colors, and each you see, if you pay attention, you're going to see different seasons: dry land, green land, rain, sunset. Everything is
Yes.
in there. So it's just truly my appreciation of nature and what it does for me.
And the hills around the Bay Area as
Could
well.
be. It could be. Yes.
Never give up. So this one has a little bit of a different color palette.
It does, and it's an interesting one. Abstracts are pretty challenging because I tend to be in a state of mind that I don't even try until the very last minute to really figure out what I'm trying to see, and or to find a story. And this painting was painted over many times until it got to this stage, and it was really a lesson for me to not give up, because you always go through this with, especially abstracts, you go through these stages of ugliness.
Right.
And now it's done, no, it's not done. And it
Yes.
finally got to a stage that I thought it was telling a story, and the story was don't give up.
Never give up. Yeah,
Never
a lot
give
of
up.
artists say that they go through a process and there's a point
Yes.
where you just don't like it, but you keep going, and then
Yes.
then you go, oh, this is what I wanted. But it takes work.
Yes.
Sunny side up, beautiful.
As I mentioned, I really hope to promote happiness, and it takes effort, and it's not easy, and it's always a choice to be happy or not happy. And this painting is about happiness is a choice. Look at the sunny side up, and you can see that there's gloomy side at the very bottom of the painting, and as you move towards the upper corner, you're going to see much brighter colors and happier colors. So that's what the story is about.
Sunny side up, it's beautiful. I like the color progression in that one.
Thank you.
So we've talked about nature.
Yes.
And then the abstracts and the challenges that you have with abstracts, but you really also focus on interacting with people.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about how that influences your art.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, nature really grounds me, and people interaction is what fuels my soul. I mean, I can go for a walk and come back home, but until once in a while I make an attempt to see a friend or spend time with real people, that juice, that the warmth is not there. So I hope to promote that for other people too, because we tend to be so focused on virtual friends.
Right.
And many people have friends, but they're all virtual, unfortunately.
Right.
And you don't have that kind of interaction that we used to have before. So in my people interaction stories, it's more about a feeling that I took away, an experience that I took away by being with people. And I hope to promote and remind people that this is important.
Yes, definitely. So let's take a look at those paintings, and you can
Sure.
tell us the stories of those.
Sure. So which one are we?
Flowers in the windows.
Okay, so this one is dear to me because it's a very simple painting. What you see there is a bunch of windows in different shapes, with different shapes, and each one of them has flowers in it. So the whole point of this one is that we all may be different, but at the end of the day, we all like flowers on our tables, and we enjoy the same thing. So pretty much we're all equal.
So this is looking in different windows, different people, and they have
Yes.
flowers in their windows. So.
Yes.
Cool.
This one was pretty spontaneous. One day I started painting, and it's kind of interesting that it has that older look. When I started painting, I started remembering how it was as a child. We had friends and family stop by and talk to us. And Mom would make a tea, and we would sit around a table and talk about many things without any previous plan or having anything on the calendar. And everything was just spontaneous. And it was interesting. I did this painting, and I put it in a gallery. And my experience of how many people stood in front of it, and they said, "Oh, I missed that." It was just amazing. And finally, this lovely lady took it home because it was so close to her heart of, you know, a story that she really connected with.
So tell us a little bit about how you use the black and the dark colors in this, because that's a little bit different.
It is very different than my style. I think it's just, it took me back so long ago as I was painting it, that I was trying to see pictures that I imagine being there in my childhood and the feeling that I had. So a lot of it was outlined with black, and then I kept adding color to it because color is me, and
Right.
I'm not a black and white kind of a person. So that's why you see more black in there. But in all honesty, when you look at it, you see the window with the bright sunny day behind it, and the cozy room, and the feeling of, you know, friendship.
It looks very balanced to me. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. So this one is an interesting one because it reminds us that although things may look chaotic when you're interacting with people at work or wherever you are, if you look at it closely, it's colorful and happy, and there's beauty in it. So I called it Beauty in Chaos because it was inspired by stories that I heard from friends who were having challenges. And I came back, and as I was painting, I started seeing me telling myself, hey, there's beauty in chaos, and it's not all bad.
To me, I love to dance, and that looks like dancing.
It could be dancing, yes.
This one's really nice.
Thanks. This is a little different than the other ones that I have. As you can tell, my people interaction is a little different than other paintings that I have. It's more about feeling and making sure that closeness and interaction is in the picture. So this one, we often look for big things to call love, or this is all it's saying is that love is simple, and enjoy and realize and see the little things that you can appreciate, and brings us closer. Here he brought very simple flowers, and she's really appreciating those flowers that was brought to her. I actually have a series that is called Love is Simple and I Love Us, that is actually done with digital paintings, paintings that I would like to translate to real paintings now.
I like the way you use light and shadow in that one too. It's much more realistic.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Yeah.
And the last one.
And the last one is about us. People interaction is really important, but taking care of yourself is as important, and maybe more, because if you don't do that, you won't have a very positive interaction with others either. So this is to remind us that it's important to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Take a nap.
In the beautiful chair, in the beautiful light.
Yes.
Yes, don't think too much.
Yes.
So with this people interaction, you are a teacher as well. So tell us a little bit about your teaching process and what you do. How do you bring students into your process?
So a lot of people do ask me, how do you come up with these ideas? Because all is imaginary, and it's all my imagination. And my process for teaching is to letting people break the boundaries and becoming self-expressive and not think so much. It's more a meditative process. And I usually hold my classes outdoor in the garden with water running and all that stuff. So you can actually totally relax and paint your feeling rather than be very focused on techniques.
Okay, so when you're out in the garden, you're outside and you have your palettes, and do you have a large class out there, or how do you interact?
No, my classes tend to be one-on-one or a group of 2-3 friends who really want to enjoy and and make it a fun event, because it's more about self-expression. You tend to get that done much better in a one-on-one session rather than have a group of or a workshop.
And what kind of boundaries do people break through? What do you
Oh,
mean
a
by
lot.
that?
Sometimes it ends up being conversations that last for a long time, actually. It's kind of interesting. And I have had students who were so detail-oriented that they didn't even notice what's going on around them.
Wow.
Until the end of the day. Or it's just everyone is individual, and it's a different experience.
So tell us where people can see your art. Tell us about a few shows coming up.
Well, I'm definitely participating in Silicon Valley Open Studios for 3 weekends, and I'm in Palo Alto at the Gallery House for first weekend, and in Los Altos, and then at my house. The one at my house is kind of a large one in the garden.
Oh, nice.
People are getting used to art in the garden in that sense. And then I have a feature show coming up at the Gallery House in the month of July. So
nice.
A lot is going on in a few months ahead of me, aside from classes and all the other activities.
Well, it's been such a pleasure learning about your painting process and the beautiful colors that you use.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on Talk Art.
My pleasure. Thank you.